recording. So good evening, everybody. I'm so excited. We've got Fiona with me, and Fiona, you and I met, man, some time ago. I'm thinking perhaps even 6 or 7 years ago.
It was a long time ago, Travis, far too long.
Yeah. And the thing for me that's interesting is, we met, we had a good connection. We discussed, health from different perspectives. And then I must be honest, I kind of not even lost track of you. It just, life goes in different places. And then one of my patients recently said, "Hey, you're doing this podcast. You must get Fiona on." And so I thought, hey, yes, I remember that lady. So Fiona, thank you so much for joining us. And everyone that's on the call, thank you so much. Just know that we are recording. So if you don't want to be part of the recording, please really sign off now. And so as an introduction, Fiona, I always like to read my belief systems and then we can jump into use. Number one, I firmly believe that health is more than what you eat and drink, whether you exercise or you avoid certain items. I believe that health is a diverse, dynamic, and deliberate effort. I firmly believe that health is not possible under the hand of only one practitioner or one discipline of medicine or one healthcare, whether it's natural, alternative, or complementary. I firmly believe that health is a person's primary responsibility and must be person specific. I firmly believe that health must be conversed on physical, chemical, emotional, mental, spiritual, cultural, racial, and various other undetermined levels. And Fiona, I know you're going to talk on some levels that perhaps people haven't spoken about today. And then I firmly believe that there must be a better way. There must be a better way than what is our current status quo. So with all of that being said, Fiona, tell us about you, man. How have you got into this health sphere?
Okay, well, health has been in my blood since I was a child. As far as I can remember, even at the age of 10, I was saving up my pocket money to buy the American Shape magazine because we didn't have fitness magazines in this country. So I always loved the human body, health, fitness from a physical perspective. I didn't take maths for matric, so becoming a surgeon wasn't quite in the path. But I've always loved the.
What was it about the Shape magazine that interested you?
Well, it covered everything. It covered the body from a physical perspective in terms of being fit and strong and healthy and posture. I was very fortunate to grow up with parents who were ahead of their time and nagged me about my posture all the time. And then Shape magazine also obviously had all the health articles. In those days we had Fair Lady, Darling, Huisgenoot. That was about what we had. So Shape magazine was a little bit of an inspiration. It was what, I don't know, it fed my curiosity and my desire for knowledge.
And where did you go from there?
So then when I left school, I actually trained to be a chef. And I loved food and I loved cooking, but it wasn't quite in my blood.
I don't know if you heard the podcast that I had with Barry, who was the chef. Did you listen to that podcast?
No, I missed that, I'm afraid to say.
Wow, you got to meet Mr. Barry. He's a wonderful man. Anyway, continue. So that again? That's correct. Yes, That's correct.
Yeah,
and he's on the call now. His ears are burning, so he's just waved at us. So after doing a chef, what did you do after that?
So then I had my 2 kids, and I was determined that I was somehow going to get into the healthcare field. And it was actually a biokineticist who suggested I study personal training, which was not on my radar at all, but it got me a foot in the door. And I did a 2-year diploma in personal training and then a 2-year diploma in specialist fitness training, working with special populations, COPD, pregnant women, the elderly. And while I was doing that, I discovered Pilates. And I fell head over heels in love. And I promptly signed on to study Pilates. And from there, the rest is history. And I was fortunate enough at the start of my career to come into contact with 2 chiropractors who swore by the power of Pilates and referred all their clients to me.
Wow.
And it was then that I started studying the other modalities, because I found people would come to me with back pain and needing their postures sorted, but there were other issues at play, not just a physical issue.
Right. Let's get into Pilates. I think for me, this is an important conversation. And I remember even when I first met with you, you know, Pilates for me is one of these things that confuses me. There was one guy, his name was Joseph Pilates, and now there are 300 different versions of Pilates. It's very similar to chiropractic. There was one guy, his name was D.D. Palmer, his son was B.J. Palmer, and now there are so many different versions of chiropractic. And I think for the public, that confuses things because, you know, you're not giving a consistent message. And I see that for chiropractic. So give us the consistent message, at least from your point of view. What is Pilates?
Yeah, unfortunately, Travis, you're spot on with the inconsistency. When I started studying Pilates, which is now 20 years ago, you could train to be a Pilates instructor via a video or do Pilates classes with your instructor and she would show you the moves. That has subsequently, thank goodness, changed. And you now have to be, in the States and overseas in particular, you need to be certified. Here they're still a little bit more relaxed with the certification, but you need to do you've got to study. Your knowledge of anatomy has to be phenomenal. And I think that's where my personal training came in, because there they focused on anatomy. So to cut to the chase about Pilates, Pilates, and it's generally taught as a group exercise, which I don't agree with, because each of us have different postural issues and physical structures. And Pilates focuses on your core. And core is a word that is loosely thrown around. But core is, it really is your entire trunk, your glutes, your neck, everything. And you know, just
so what you're saying, let's just make this clear, that core is not just how many sit-ups you can do.
No, don't do sit-ups. Oh God, please don't do sit-ups. Please. If you do sit-ups, Travis, you and I are going to get rich.
100%. I like what you said in terms of core is about neck as well. I mean, tell me more. I'm excited already.
Okay, well, you know, the spine, it goes from the base of our skull all the way down to our sacrum. So, you know, working on just having strong abdominals or having your pelvis in the correct tilt, because of course, you know, we've got our neutral, posterior, anterior tilt to our pelvis. And so what happens at the top happens below. So if your pelvis is tilted out of alignment, your neck is going to follow, because we're fighting gravity all the time. So, you know, we see it all the time now, Travis, you in particular, I'm sure, the tech snake. Everybody's on their cell phone and they're all sitting poking forward or they're staring at the desk. So if you don't take your neck into consideration, there's no point. Your lower back is also going to take strain. You need to work the entire posture from top to toe. So neck for me.
And how does Pilates do that? What is the mechanism? Let's make some clarity. How does Pilates address this?
Okay, Pilates will look at your posture first of all, and then what Pilates aims to do is address the imbalances in the body. So you will look at the foot placement of the person first, see if they're rolling their feet in or out, see if they're locking their knees. If they're rolling their feet in or locking their knees, their hips are going to go out of alignment, which is going to throw their shoulder girdle and then their neck out of alignment. So Pilates is going to aim to strengthen a muscle which is called the transverse abdominis, which lies exceptionally deep in our body. And that muscle is engaged on expulsion, on breathing out, on childbirth, on giggling, laughing, coughing, sneezing. So a lot of people tonight might say, you know, I had a coughing fit and my back went out. So that transverse abdominis is then not firing correctly, either due to a pathology or due to an injury or due to the nervous system not communicating. So if your posture is out of alignment, your nerves can't communicate with the rest of the body. So Pilates is going to look first and foremost at strengthening that transverse abdominis so that your trunk is supported on your pelvis in a stable manner. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Our hips. We're not, clenching our
Well, I think the thing that you said, which is so important, is we're fighting gravity all the time, and we're either doing that in an effective method, or we're doing that in an ineffective method. What percentage of people would you say, when you examine them, or perhaps when you're walking through a shopping mall and you're watching people, what percentage of people would you say fight gravity effectively?
Oy vey. Very few, very few. Because remember, our spines have that specific curvature to keep us up against gravity.
You didn't answer my question. What percentage?
1%, if even.
That is ridiculous.
Travis, you see it in your practice.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
In my studio.
Yeah.
And it's very sad.
If someone is not fighting gravity the right way, what is the knock-on effect of that?
It's huge. The knock-on effect is, first of all, you can't breathe properly. You put your shoulders round, stand with your shoulders hunched. Now try and take a deep breath in. Now we need to have oxygen in order for our blood to be oxygenated so that we can digest properly, so that our bodies can function efficiently, so that we can live, so that we can think clearly. But now you can't get oxygen in. It also has a knock-on effect on your posture, on your digestive system, I've forgotten the word. All your digestive organs are crunched up. They're not lying in the correct position. Your hip flexors are tight. And that's another whole topic I want to go into. Your hip flexors tighten. They've even found that girls with very tight hip flexors and poor posture, they can have painful periods.
Sure. And I think people don't recognize that the skeletal frame has such a massive impact on the organs of the body.
Enormous. Absolutely enormous. And remember, to go back to what I said to you just now, sorry to interrupt, Travis, your nerves emanate from your vertebra. So if your posture is out of alignment, the nerves that emanate to that innervate your digestive organs or your reproductive organs cannot fire properly. They cannot send the correct messages to those organs. And also your endocrine system gets affected. Your testosterone levels drop when your posture is poor.
And I mean, we see such massive hormonal challenges. And unfortunately, the hormonal challenges linking into the emotional, mental challenges. Let's not go down that road, though. What I want to go down is you kind of have moved from Pilates into, sort of, I would say, the more deeper side of life. Explain how that's come about.
So it came about with clients coming to see me for, obviously, they'd been referred, and then they would cancel because their back was sore, or their shoulder was sore, and and then you lose a session, and then they lose the impetus, of their session. And I started looking further and thinking, instead of having them go to somebody else, let them come to me because they know me. So I studied Thai yoga massage because I love the stretches and I love the meridians and the acupressure points and the fact that it also works on other systems. And then I studied reflexology, which is therapeutic reflexology, which is just absolutely mind-blowing, and Bowen therapy, which works on the fascia. And it's been wonderful because my clients can come to me for either a reflexology treatment or a Bowen treatment. And then I can assist them in helping them correct their postures and then having a knock-on effect. There's a saying in our field, Travis, structure governs function and function governs structure. Did I say that correctly? Yes.
Yes, you did.
So when your structure is out of alignment, it cannot function efficiently. And when those functions are out of alignment, the structure is also affected.
Let's
I
chat somewhat about fascia. I find this topic really interesting, and a lot of people don't know the influence of fascia. And certainly, I haven't seen that fascia is massively incorporated within Pilates. So let's talk about fascia. What is the importance of fascia from your point of view?
For me, fascia is critically important from the point of view that is where a lot of the adhesions happen in our bodies and cause the stiffness. So, we always blame our muscles and say, well, my biceps is tight or my hamstring is tight. And yes, they do get trigger points and they do tighten, but the fascia is the cling film that holds our body together, and it lies superficially under our skin. It encases our organs, it lies around our brain. It's everywhere. It's all over the show, in between our blood cells, our nerve fibers, our muscle fibers. And that fascia needs to glide. But should we have an operation or have a tightened muscle or an injury, or we are poorly hydrated, our fascia is going to stick. And then you think about cling film. You buy a piece of cheddar cheese from Pick and Pay, and that cling film is beautifully wrapped around it. Now you open it, but you've got all those little bits and pieces you're trying to pull. And then for love of money, you can't get that blooming piece of cling film around that cheese again, even though you've eaten half the cheese. And it's because the fascia has, the plastic is all...
That is such a nice analogy of fascia. I like that analogy of fascia, Fiona. You've just given me something beautiful.
Yay.
I mean, there's a concept, and I don't know if you know the concept, and if you don't, we'll move on, but it's called tensegrity. Have you heard of tensegrity?
Oh, God, absolutely. Tensegrity, anatomy trained. John, Tom Myers.
Yes. Just touch on tensegrity, because I think that's vitally important for people to understand, the purpose of fascia. You say fascia's all over the body, and it's not just around a muscle. It's a continuous unit from top to bottom. Now, I'm just letting you know, anytime you ask a question and the person finds a book right next to them, you know that the person studies a lot. Yes, let's see what you got.
So I'm trying to find a picture of tensegrity for everyone who's on the group. Of course, do you think I could have posted where it is? But I'll find it. But just to explain to everybody basically the concept of tensegrity. When we were at school, we would make a little shape with matchsticks and then tie elastic bands to them and make a shape. I don't know if anybody did that at school or remembers doing that. So you'd make the shape with the elastic bands and the matchsticks, and then you pull one elastic band and the entire shape changes. Now that's exactly what happens. That's what tensegrity is about. It's very much an engineering concept.
Yeah.
You have one pillar skew in your building, and that's toast. It doesn't matter about the foundations or anything. That building's going to fall over.
I'm going to change direction somewhat. You've mentioned about meridians a few times. Yes. Where does the meridians fit in for you?
So for me, the meridians fit in. They came in particularly with reflexology and Bowen therapy, because a lot of the moves of Bowen therapy are done over meridian lines and acupressure points. But the interesting thing, if you look at the way the fascia lies around our body, and there are different, so fascia doesn't just lie. There's fascia that lies laterally, that folds itself across our bodies. It runs down the front, it runs down the back. They've found that the meridians actually follow the same line as the fascia. So if you look, for example,
that's super interesting.
Out there, yes. So if anybody knows, for example, the let's see here. This is a very basic picture. I don't know if anybody would be able to see.
You're going to have to hold it very still, very still.
So you can see just basically those blue lines. Those are just basic tracks of fascia, all right?
Yes.
And if you look over at the other page at those meridians, all right? I don't know which meridians they are. I haven't got my glasses on. But they follow the same track as the fascia. So, for example,
see, I didn't know that.
Please, you've got to get Tom Myers Anatomy trained. It's amazing. So
I read it a long time ago, but I forgot about that point, obviously.
Yes, no, it's really important. And it's so interesting because, for example, let's take the gallbladder meridian. It runs through the neck and it runs down the side of the body and down and crosses the hip flexors, etc. And so when a client comes to me for Bowen therapy and I question them and they explain where those niggles are, and I'll say to them, well, you know, how's your gallbladder? How's your neck pain? And 9 times out of 10, the fascia will be the meridian that's running along that fascia.
Explain what a meridian is. How do these meridians work for lay people? Because obviously a lot of people, when you start talking about meridians, they get scared, they get concerned, they get freaked out. And then, you know, the whole spiritual conversation is brought in, and I don't do spiritual stuff, so I don't want to talk about this. You know, make it easy for people.
Meridians are basically energy lines that run through your body. So if you imagine your electricity running through your house, and then wherever you have a plug point, that is an acupressure point or an acupuncture point. And studies have been conducted that, and I've also, you know, I've gone blank on how they did the studies, but the scientific studies have been conducted that have proven that there is more energy. You remember, we're electromagnetic beings.
Yes.
So there is more electricity along where those points are. Those meridians exist. And I can tell you, Travis, when I'm sitting in my therapy room doing reflexology and somebody talks about, you know, infertility or blood sugar levels, etc., and I go along, for example, the stomach meridian, everything that they mention in their information, in their health information chart questionnaire, comes up on that meridian. Now, how can it be that there's that meridian and yet those symptoms are linked to it? And I've seen it time and again. And this is one thing I want to impress. Know your body, know your meridians. They don't lie.
Well, let me ask you a question. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Maybe you've got it. Maybe there is somewhere. Is there like a meridian checklist that you could answer these kind of questions, and that would then give you an indication of whether your stomach meridian or your gallbladder or your liver meridian is not working? Is there a checklist that people could use?
Well, you know, I don't know about on the internet. There are a tremendous amount of awesome sites that do go into Chinese medicine and into the meridian. But you've given me a hell of a good idea there, because I'd like to put the course together in this. And
so wait here. Fiona Hardie is going to put this together, and she's going to put these checklists. And when you put the checklist, just at the bottom, say, thank you, Dr. T, for such a good idea.
I'll call them Dr. T's checklist.
So how does some...
Yes. So if you go to a therapeutic reflexologist who has studied the meridian, or you go to a doctor of Chinese medicine who works with them, he will more than likely ask you the questions pertaining to those meridians when he picks up or she picks up what your symptoms are.
Well, let's make it practical for people that are listening now or listen at a later point. How would someone start getting to understand about their own meridians?
Well, you know, yeah. And that is where I want to put this workshop and this course together, because when I sit explaining it to my clients in reflexology, their eyes widen and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Why don't I know about it? So, and that's the other point, Travis, we need to move beyond this belief that the meridians or anything Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic or whatever is woo-woo, and not to offend anybody, but that it's not following particular religious tenets. It's not a spiritual thing. And I think that is where people need to...
I think that's so vitally important. I think that's so vitally important.
Yeah.
You know, I certainly, and let's not harp too much on that, but I see a lot of people that are fearful because of their religious premise that they hold to, and you know, that's fantastic for them, but they're fearful that they're going to get involved in something that brings, you know, evil to them or something of that nature. And you know, this is something that can benefit people rather than bringing something evil to a person.
Absolutely, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
And it's something that honestly, you know, once people know their meridians and understand, and again, it goes back to actually biology 101, what they should have taught you at school, not how to cut open a frog, but how to listen to your body and how to pick up the messages, because your body knows. You know, even in reflexology, you look at the feet, you can see. After lockdown, I put a post on the lung reflex, which is the ball of the foot. And I said there, you know, callousing over the lung reflex, over the ball of the foot, can indicate colds and flu, congestion in the lungs, can indicate grief, it can indicate worry. And it was remarkable the response I got from people who read it and said, oh my God, now I know why I suddenly got callousing.
So if I put my foot up to the camera, you're going to know exactly what's happening with me, hey?
Yes, absolutely.
There's a wonderful question here. Can Bowen help someone with advanced MS? And I'm presumably MS is multiple sclerosis. I don't know another abbreviation MS. So can Bowen help someone with advanced MS? I think it's a very nice question.
It's a stunning question. And so how Bowen therapy works is it works at setting our parasympathetic nervous system into a state of relaxation. So it stimulates various receptors in our body, but only enough that the body just goes into a complete state of relaxation. So any anxiety, any tension, any discomforts and negative symptoms that could arise from MS can undoubtedly be, I would cautiously, you know, it's not going to happen in one session, but I've had clients with cancer, I've had clients who got torticollis, one gentleman had, what is it called, I've gone blank, Parkinson's and throat cancer. So he would come and have Bowen, and it really helped just to alleviate the tremors. So Bowen therapy is one of the safest therapies that you can use. There are virtually no contraindications, except maybe one or two of the moves if you're pregnant or whatever. So somebody with MS would certainly have amazing results from the point of view of just greater relaxation, ease of movement in the body.
And I think I think the fact that you've harped on the parasympathetic is important. People don't recognize how important the parasympathetic system is and how vitally important it is for healing. So if you don't find a time in your day that you are parasympathetic, then you're not actually activating the healing of the body.
Yes, we're in sympathetic fight or flight. And the sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight. So we're in that constantly. And the body, and that's why there's so many issues such as indigestion, bloating, infertility. You know, when the parasympathetic nervous system is functioning efficiently, then your digestive system works. Everything works. Your body doesn't have to worry about trying to save you from this unseen threat or seen threat, for that matter. And you know, when we don't do something like Pilates or listen to our body and have a treatment such as Bowen or reflexology or any other of the excellent complementary therapies out there, we're like a sprinter at a starting block, and he's waiting for that gun to go off. And when a sprinter goes, that adrenaline that's building up in anticipation is released into his muscles to help him to run. But when we don't get rid of that adrenaline, it stays in our system, and that's what then brings on the disease and ill health and aches and pain.
Certainly an important part of my prescription to people is understanding their movement from a sympathetic versus parasympathetic point of view. Certainly what I see with a lot of general exercise, it's very high intensity. You have your HIIT workouts, high intensity workouts, which is massively sympathetic dominant. Now that might mentally help you in terms of your stress, but physiologically it doesn't help you in terms of your stress. Will you work through that a little bit?
Sure. I couldn't agree with you more, Travis. In my studio, I don't play music. It's very calm. It's beautiful. It looks out over my garden. And this is, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because we do tend to go for our long 10K run every day, our half marathon. We go, and as you say, we go and do a high intensity workout. The music is pumping. So your poor body is constantly under attack from all this external stimuli. And remember, we're not only just our physical body, we're also the biofield around us, or aura, as a lot of people would refer to it. And you need to, I've found with my clients, they need to switch off. They need to stop that mental chatter, the noise that's in the mind, the noise that surrounds them. And then the body will relax. But at cellular level, we know how powerful sound therapy is. Got my tuning forks here. Sound therapy is so important to work deep into our body system. And exactly like listening to that loud thumping music with aggressive undertones or aggressive words or lyrics or whatever, that impacts on us. And we might leave feeling great, but I still think people need to add something like Pilates and yoga. Yoga is doing phenomenally well at the moment. And I think it's because there's that lovely calming aspect about it, which we need. So I'm so glad you brought that point up.
Just as a time check, we've got 7 minutes left, and to end, I've got my 2 favorite questions. So I think we can go a little bit longer, and then I'm going to interrupt you and get to the last 2 questions. But let's come back to you've mentioned somewhat of people taking note of their body. If you could, let's break it down to sort of 3 or 4 things that you recommend to your clients on a regular basis in order for them to start learning how to take note of their body. What would you say those mechanisms are?
Okay, mechanisms. Well, I always tell them to start breathing properly. They've got to breathe. If they want to live, they have to breathe. This business of shallow breathing and I'm stressed, I've got no time to breathe, that doesn't work. So I always ask them to breathe. I focus a lot in my sessions on their postural awareness. I have them stand in front of the mirror, rock backwards and forwards, see how they feel when the knees are locked, see what happens up the chain of the body. And I encourage them to do that at home. The other thing I ask them to do to start becoming aware of their body is to, in particular, watch the words they use and how they talk about their body. Saying my stupid body, my ugly whatever. It doesn't, you need to start being cognizant of those words.
Thank you for that, Fiona. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And people own diseases. My cancer, my high blood pressure, you own it. Did you buy it? Did you buy it in a shop? Did you pay good money for it? No, you didn't.
You paid good money for it, for all the toxins and the stuff that you put into your body. If you just actually, we look at our cat and our dog, and no matter how off kilter that cat or dog is, one leg cut off, skew ears, we adore them. We say, "Oh my God, I love you. You're so beautiful. You're so gorgeous." But do we do it to ourselves? No. We look at us and we say, "Oh, I hate my chin. I'm ugly. I'm this," and it's wrong. So I always tell my clients, start loving yourself. Love.
And loving yourself now as you are. I think that's so important. Okay, cool. We got 4 minutes left. Come, one more thing. What else can people do to get in contact with their body?
Stand barefoot outside on the grass and ground yourself. Get out of your tackies and your running shoes and your Crocs and I don't know what the latest shoes are. And stand barefoot, spread your toes, feel your body weight distribution between the big toe, baby toe, and the heel, and breathe. That, for me, that is the most important thing.
For how long must you ground yourself every day, Fiona?
You know what? If you can do it for 10 minutes every morning and 10 minutes at the end of the day, I promise you will see a difference in your body in every respect.
Even when it's muddy and squishy outside.
Yes. Yes.
Even more important.
Even
Right.
more important.
Here's the first question. And before I get you to answer, I want to thank everybody for joining. And Fiona, it's been such a pleasure listening to you. You've got such a calming undertone, and I really appreciate that. What would you like the future of healthcare to look like? What would you like the future of healthcare to look like? And how do we move in that direction? You've got 3.5 minutes. As soon as the call ends, we just duck off. What would you like the future to look like, and how do we move in that direction?
I would like the future to be where allopathic medicine and complementary medicine work hand in hand, and all practitioners work hand in hand, where there is no, you know how you use words, professional jealousy or insecurity. If another practitioner can help your client, refer them. Don't hang on to them. Don't be jealous. So I would like that, and I would really dearly like to see clients and people out there start to question more and educate themselves more. Really, that's all I can say. Educate yourself, ask questions, read, be open to things. Be open.
Now let's make this clear. In terms of asking questions, what do you mean by asking questions?
Don't blindly accept one diagnosis or one person's
opinion.
Opinion, yes. Question it. Take your time, breathe, pray on it, meditate on it, think before you rush out and you take the first injection or the first whatever and don't live in fear.
And when you say, read and educate yourself, presumably you're not applying, Facebook, Instagram, those kind of things.
Careful. Yeah, be very, very careful. Dr. Google is damn dangerous, I'm afraid to say, because you've got cancer no matter what you Google. I think the people need to make informed decisions, and they need to speak to different practitioners. I'm open to anyone phoning me to come to my studio just to chat to me, to find out about things, and I'll guide them. I'm not going to charge them. And I think that's what practitioners need to offer as well. Just a little bit more openness and sharing of knowledge. And like what you're doing, Travis, I think what you're doing is absolutely brilliant, because this is how people will start listening to professionals in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, that was certainly the purpose of this, is to bring different people from different backgrounds. I mean, at the end of the day, Fiona, you and I have some things in common, but there's things that I know nothing about, and that's where you have that experiential expertise. And for someone to pick that for 5 minutes or 10 minutes at least starts a journey. And I think that's vitally important, Fiona. And I think for me, what you just said now, it's vital for practitioners to be open enough to have a conversation. I know that it's always the time and the money side of things, but to be able to sit down with someone and have a conversation, I think that's worthwhile. We've got less than a minute left. Any last thoughts, Fiona? Throw it out. What have you got to tell us?
Oh my God, no, I can't think of anything. I think this has just been so wonderful. Thank you to everybody for joining, and I hope you've gotten something out of it. But you just love yourself and breathe and ground and watch your posture. Do Pilates. It works in every single respect. It's the most amazing.